Hi everybody, Chris Stokes from Custom Fitness Personal Training Studio. Today we're talking about quitting piling up the to-dos, and it's time to really declutter your brain. So too often we keep this list of to-dos going in our head, and it's almost as bad as whenever we're like stockpiling, saving, hoarding, whatever you want to call it, things, except we put them in our brain, and it really does cause a lot of problems. It causes extra stress, it causes disrupted sleep, it can cause weight gain because you don't want to deal with the issues, so you start to do other things like, I don't know, watch endless amounts of Netflix and eat comfort foods. So it can cause a lot of problems whenever you've got this list of to-dos that you really just don't quite think that you're ready to do yet. So we want to make sure that we start to take hold of what you've got and really get it done. And there's a lot of ways to do that. So if your list of to-dos is as long as mine, there's a few steps that we need to go through in order to make sure that that's a doable process, because if your brain looks like mine, you probably don't want to go walking through there. It's a minefield, and you never know what you're going to step on because there's a new idea popping up every moment. Most type A people kind of feel like that, that you just always have things going in your head. You're always trying to get stuff done. So organization is key whenever it comes to trying to accomplish this task. So first off, we want to sit down and do what's called a brain dump, or making a list is really what it is, of everything that's in your brain, making sure that all the ideas you've got going through, that you're actually physically writing them down. So whenever you write them down, doesn't mean that things won't change, but it does mean that now you can physically see what's there and what's not really there. So a lot of times in our mind, we build things up to be bigger or more complicated than what they really need to be. And as we write it down, we start to get a solid idea of what's there. We also have a solid idea of what we actually need to take care of. So what's really important and what maybe just doesn't matter at all that we could get rid of, or maybe we need to have somebody else do that because it's more in their realm than ours. Whenever I think about this as a family, you know, there's certain things that I do as a mom, but there's also certain things that I expect my children to do on their part, picking up their rooms, making their beds. It's not on my list. That's their list. And so if it's in my head and it's going around as things that need to be done, then I need to be learning how to teach them to do that better, rather than just holding on to it and expecting me to get it done at some point. So making your list, doing a brain dump, is step number one. If you don't do that, you don't have a solid idea of where you're going, makes it much harder. Step number two is to take that list and make it into a plan. So actually create something that you're going to start to work on. And as you start to make that plan, you're going to create what you're going to get done, when you're going to get it done, give yourself deadlines, really create structure around that, create an actual plan. But the hardest part with creating a plan is that the first thing you think is, I don't have time to get all this done. So instead you look at, what time do I have during the day? Do I have 5 minutes here or 10 minutes there that I could sit down and get this one task accomplished? I saw a blog post earlier about someone who was able to go and basically de-paper their lives. They went from all paper records to all electronic within 2 days, which was absolutely amazing to me that someone could do that. I think they spent the full 48 hours without sleep getting all that done, because there's a lot of paper that goes through our lives just in general. You got all your receipts and all your statements and all your bills and all those kinds of things that just kind of come in. So whenever we start to look at that, we want to think about, you know, what time do we have? What can we make use of? What can we do? And that's all that person did, was say, you know what, I have a couple of days. Let's sit down and start working on this, and got to work, made a plan, and got it done. So where can you start to find time in your life to get these things done? So number three is to find an accountability partner. It's starting to sound kind of familiar, right, to many other things that we want to start in our lives. So the accountability partner is there because we all need accountability, especially for jobs we don't want to do. We need to make sure that we have somebody there who knows what we're doing and is ready to support what we're doing and celebrate with us when we're finished. So that way then you can make sure that you're getting it done, and that you know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that it's not all darkness and bleak. So we want to be sure to work in that direction. Number four is to actually get started. It's the hardest one, right? You can know everything in the book, you can have every list you want, you can have a plan, but if you don't actually start, nothing will get done. So it's not tomorrow, it's not next week, it's not next month, it's not on the 1st, it's today. You start today. You find one small thing today that you can do on that list to get it marked off. And the minute you mark it off, you're going to feel like, oh, I marked off something on my list and it's going to be awesome. So we got to make sure that we mark it off, that we move through that step, and we start working that direction. So we want to make sure that we do get started. So make a plan and then plan the day to get started. Understand that it will not be done in a day. That is number 5. It is most important. You will not get it all done in a day. If you've been stockpiling this list for a month or longer, you have too much to do to get it all done in a day, especially if you live life normally and the world doesn't stop turning. So we want to make sure that we understand that before we start, and that we really plan for that in the plan that we create from the list that we made out of our brain. That we plan the fact that it is going to take a few days or a few weeks or maybe even a few months to get this project done, to make sure that these things are done and done well, because you don't want to have to redo them later. So this always reminds me of a woman who, she would tell me that she had so many things to get done. She would almost go into depression over it. She would feel stressed out all the time. She would get sick all the time. I am telling you, this physically affects your physical being. It affects you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everything. It shuts you down whenever you've got too many things that you just don't feel like you can accomplish. And so she would come in day after day telling me how many things she had to get done. And we'd try to work through and kind of give her an idea of, you know, you could work on this or we could work on this. But she wasn't quite ready, right? So you still have to be ready to get it done. Just like exercise and everything else, you have to be ready to make that commitment. And so one day she finally came in, she said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I've been sick for 3 weeks. I've got to do something to fix this problem. And so we sat down and I had her write down everything on the list that she had to do or had in her mind. We did that brain dump, and it honestly was the most freeing experience for her, because when she wrote it down, she spent about 20 minutes thinking as hard as she could about everything that she could possibly have to get done. Now, whenever I make a brain dump list, mine's usually 3 or 4 pages. Hers was 7 items. 7 items was all that it was, and it had been happening for over 9 months that it had been stressing her out. And she just couldn't get it done. It was things like cleaning out her recipe drawer or her linen closet or, you know, reorganizing the pantry. It was little things that could have been done many times over by this point, but the brain shut down and said, I don't have time. It's too big a task. I don't want to do it. So we sat down together and we created a plan, and we said, okay, this week is dedicated to your pantry or whatever it was. And on this week, day 1, you're going to work on shelf 1. And on this part, on day 2, you're going to work on shelf 2. And on day 3, and we broke it all down into a way that it worked for her. Now, everybody's different on how much they can handle in a day, but this poor woman was so stressed out about this that we had to break it down into teeny tiny little baby steps. And as we did that, and she started to complete those tasks, you would not believe the smile and the look of joy on her face whenever she got just one of those tasks completed. She was so elated that it was just awesome to be able to get to celebrate that with her. And I was there as accountability partner for her. I would give her a call and check in and say, okay, this was the plan for today. Did you get it done? Not in a mean, ugly way. Make sure that you don't do that. But in a nice way, checking in with people, making sure that they're succeeding at the tasks that you've heard that they're trying to succeed at. It's just a great way to kind of encourage people. So that story always reminds me of this topic, and that's why we're talking about that today. So I hope that you got something great out of this. If you need help creating a game plan for your life, maybe not in the to-do list side, but maybe more in the how on earth do I start exercise and throw nutrition into my life and make this all work with my family, and I'm so busy, we would love to talk with you. That is honestly the best type of client for us to have, is the one who really sees the need for help, doesn't know how to get it done. Maybe they've heard too many ways to do it and they've tried every which way on the face of the earth and they just can't get it done. We would love to be able to talk with you and give you a more simplified, done for you plan that's step by step, that says do this on Monday and do this on Tuesday. So feel free to give us a call. We'd set up a consultation where we can just sit down and talk to you, see if we're the right fit for you. 806-322-3188. Have a great day.